time is it? Oh, time to go on. Okay. How do I do this? Oh. Hello, hello, hello. Well, as you may know, today's Friday, and this is Brenda Charles Edwards, host of Seniors Matter. I'm having some technical difficulties, so I had to switch to my phone. But I'm hoping that you can hear me and that you are ready for a great show. My guest today is James DeMonda. He is with AARP Washington, and he is the outreach specialist. I know, James, I didn't say your title right. So come on in and you can talk.
All right. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you so much for having me on your show and the opportunity to speak with your audience. I'm really grateful that you invited me. So yeah, and you were very close. First of all, you pronounced my last name correctly, which is an achievement, DeMonda. And then also very close, I'm an outreach manager with AARP Washington.
I knew that. Like I said, yeah. I clicked on my laptop and it said, my camera is not working. It's not connected. I'm like, what are you talking about? I was just on it. So anyway, I don't know, but I said, well, I do have a phone, so let me get on that phone real quick, like a bunny.
Well, we're here. We're here.
Yes, we are here. So, James, I've known you for a while, but what exactly does AARP Washington State Office do?
Yeah, thanks, Brenda. So the AARP Washington State Office is a little different than how some people or many people may know AARP. Most people know AARP through the member benefits, the discounts, and the magazine, which there's a really good reason for that, because the magazine, AARP magazine, for example, is the most read magazine in America, with over, I think, close to 40 million readers. And so our membership is incredible. We have nearly 900,000 members in Washington State. And but our state office, we don't manage the member services and the member benefits. We are 100% focused on social impact, on leveraging our incredible resources with AARP National to make an impact on the state and local levels as well for Washingtonians and older adults across our state. So that means focusing on what matters to older adults. One of our priority issues is supporting family caregivers, people who are caring for their loved ones, are not paid for that incredible service, but are doing so much for their families, for the people they're caring for. Yeah, and we know it's not just older adults. There are a lot of people who are caring for their loved ones, but we really, our priority focuses on older adults. And also another priority issue, for example, this year is protecting Social Security, improving Social Security, improving customer service of Social Security for older adults. And so that's what we do at the state office is focus on those issues, on community engagement and partnering with local organizations and our volunteers, and also advocating to improve on a policy level, the more system issues that are really going to help older adults live our best lives as we age, and so that's what our state office does on a higher level. I don't want to go into the detail of everything we do, because that's going to bore your listeners about, well, we log into our computers and we go, we go into our office, we work these hours, but that's what we're really passionate about, and what we really want to do is make an impact locally for older adults in Washington.
So how did you get involved in outreach and community engagement, and why did you choose to work with AARP?
Yeah, so I'll start the first part of the question. How did I get involved with outreach and community engagement? I think so. I work for the United States Hockey League as a PR communications assistant director back, and I that was my kind of exposure to communications and public relations. But how I got really involved in working on the community level was I was a leader of a very innovative service learning program in a small school in Rochester, New York, which focused on empowering younger adults. It was a course for 12th graders on developing empathy and social emotional development through a course where they learned how to care for people who are at the end of life or nearing end of life, and their family members on hospice care. So that was how, working with students and having them volunteer in these comfort care homes in Rochester. That really involved in working with the whole network of local organizations that did all the actual service directly to people on hospice and their family members. And so that was just important to learn how forming relationships across sectors in the community was how you could make an impact with the program that you had. So, and then also working with volunteers. So that initial role that I had in this small school as a director of this innovative program really was focusing on working with volunteers, leading volunteers to make a greater community impact. And that led me to Kaiser Permanente, Washington here. So I moved to Washington, to this area in 2016. And I worked with Kaiser Permanente, Washington as the hospice volunteer program manager. And that also involved community outreach and engagement, more from going into people's homes and in home health and hospice settings, and meeting people where they were in their own residences, if you're welcomed in. So even though I work for a healthcare organization, I was really working out in the community with people and their families in their own homes. And that led me to, so I got a master's in public health with UW, and that led me to AARP because I learned a lot about how to work on a system level to improve individual experiences, and working more with community on the community level, because I heard a lot of concerns and needs from people, individuals who are caring for their family members, and the person themselves who is being cared for, and I got kind of I started to feel like I know I can't make that impact for each person, all the members, all the patients, all the families. But if I work on a system level and I try to help improve the policies that impact those experiences, and I work with organizations to kind of leverage our power to change the experiences for people on an individual level through the public health education, that really opened my eyes to how we could make an impact beyond the patient and family experiences individually. So, yeah.
So, James, that youth program that you were working with, what was the age range?
Well, it was for 12th graders, so it was 16 to 18.
I'm going to have to talk to you more about this, because to my knowledge, we don't have anything like that in the schools, in high school. I worked in Seattle Public Schools for a little while, and I don't recall hearing anything like that. And I think that I'm involved with end-of-life planning, and that will lead me to my commercial. So I'm going to just talk a little bit more and just say that if you're just tuning in, you're listening live to Seniors Matter with your host, Brenda Charles Edwards, on www.Rainier Avenue Radio, your South Seattle community radio station. I'm here on Fridays at 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Do you know what's the best legacy we can give ourselves and our loved ones? Join me on Zoom or in person for a group or individual session on legacy end-of-life planning. You may contact me at 206-683-2636. Now back to my guest, James Dabata, Associate State Director Outreach for AARP Washington. So how was that implemented, James?
Yeah, so mainly it was because it was a small independent school that was able to have a program that was, it would be very challenging to have a program like that in to be honest, in the public school system. So, and it was also very, not just that, but in Rochester, New York, there's a very unique network of comfort care homes that are run almost entirely by volunteers. They have a nurse manager who's always there to support the volunteers who are doing the direct care for patients and their families, residences of those homes and their families, and also a medical director. But they kind of operated off the grid, and were not as heavily, or not as heavily regulated as like a healthcare organization, because they were really just residences. They were not. So in Washington State, because the laws are different and differently regulated, I think the closest you could have to that would be like an adult family home, where it's like people are living in a ranch style home that's really looks like just a home. It's not a clinical environment, like a hospital or other certified nursing facilities. So yeah, it was very. I wish it was more scalable, across the country, but a lot of work to try to do that and have a curriculum that could be used in other states and in other communities. But it's just very hard because it's very, very unique to that particular landscape and regulations and all that for that area.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it sparked my interest, and so I'm like always looking, because that's an issue that, oh boy, a lot of people aren't wanting to talk about and plan for. And I know from personal experience that it's going to happen, because I went through that with my dad. And when I tried to talk to him about getting paperwork together, and he said, I'll deal with it when the time comes. And under my breath, I said, no, you won't. We'll deal with it.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's what happened. We had to deal with it. But anyway, it's all good. So what types of issues have you found matter most to older adults in Washington State?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I really, there's not one, this is going to sound like cop out here a bit, but there really is not one answer to that question of what matters to older adults in Washington. It really depends on the community or the audience that we're asking that question to. And from an outreach and community engagement perspective with the AARP Washington State Office, we, as an outreach manager, I'm really working to ensure that we listen first. We ask questions among communities to ask what does matter. We don't try not to make assumptions about because we're speaking with an older adult audience in a certain community that that a certain issue is really going to be important. And so looking at the understanding more the strengths of each community, and the different needs. And so, for example, in our work in Spokane, because we're a statewide organization and Spokane is another focused geographic community for us, at the Spokane Farmers Market, we do some community tabling, sharing resources with community members, residents of Spokane. And we do a listening post and this is something we do in other kind of community engagement efforts, where we have an activity for the participants to come up and work and have our local volunteers engage with them, asking what matters most to you and your community and your family. And we put on the board issues that AARP Washington is working on, but we want to know, how to prioritize those in terms of which of those issues really is something that we should focus on our resources in that particular area and with that audience. So in the Spokane Farmers Market, for example, one of the issues that really came to the top in their priorities was housing and making our communities more livable as we age. So that happened to be in an area where housing and having affordable housing for older adults is a really pressing issue and is an immediate need and even a crisis, going on. So but if you went down the road, you went, a little further out, maybe to Spokane Valley, and we were at the Active Living Expo, and we did the same listening activity, and the Social Security and protecting Social Security came up to the top of the needs for. I mean, these are just ways that we can also just show that we are trying our best to listen to what matters to people locally, and are not trying to just impose our own views on what would be important to people with our kind of broad brush, not necessarily community relevant resources. So that's something that I would say this year where our priority issues are Social Security, because again, we're hearing from people and we've heard for a while that this has been an issue that we should focus on. And particularly this year that we celebrate the 90th anniversary of Social Security with multiple different events in our state, and also not just celebrating Social Security and its impact for older adults in our communities, but also actions people can take to sign a pledge to help us work with us to protect Social Security. So that's the best answer I've got for that one.
Okay. Well, so while you were talking, I was thinking one thing that I feel is important and that we do talk about at AARP is the slip and fall, how to prevent falls, because as people get older, they sometimes get weaker and there are more falls. Because I know my mom had one back at the end of December, and fortunately, she didn't break anything, although I think she may have a little hip issue problem, which I have to get her x-rayed for. But she cut her finger and almost cut it off because it hit the fireplace. And she didn't tell me about it. We just went over there. Something told me, my husband and I had gone to dinner. I said, let's stop by Mom's on the way home.
Yeah.
And when I got there, I realized that something had happened, and I found all these bloody tissues in the wastebasket. And I said, what happened? So I cut the Band-Aid off of her finger, and I could see her tendon. So we went immediately to emergency. But she'd had a fall. She slipped and fell. So that is really a serious side effect, I guess you could say, of getting older. And I know we have, or AARP has programs on falls, and I think that is something. I'm going to have, let's see, who's over that right now? Who can I get on the show to talk about that?
Oh, about fall prevention? And I would say someone with our Speakers Bureau who provide presentations on like the Home Fit Guide is a free a free service that AARP Washington provides, or the AARP provides, so that but one of our speakers to talk, because we have these presentations on preventing falls that any organization can request, and we can come out with a speaker to provide that. So I would say someone who's leading that work, and we can talk. I'll send you offline. I'll think of who is the best person for you to contact for that.
Okay, wonderful. Because I think that's definitely something that we need to address and get the forefront. I know the one thing I told my mother was, you've got to get rid of those throw rugs. Ah!
Yeah. No, it's, and working in home health and hospice, in that, I know, I mean, there's just some simple basic things that we can do in our homes that can really change the trajectory of what our experience is like at this stage, based on just some basic modifications that we could make, and hopefully ones that are not too expensive to modify your homes. Which brings up something that I think there's also, AARP has resources and training, education around how to modify our homes so that we can live in our homes for as long as possible, as independently as possible. But there's also something that we want to work on the more system level, which is we know that our neighborhoods and our communities and our infrastructure for our transportation and our homes, and they're not designed for older adults. They're not designed for us to live at this point in our life and continue to live in that space in our communities where we want to live, through as we change and grow and through life. So we have to, and AARP is really involved in creating more age-friendly and livable communities for us as we age. So there's the making modifications to our homes and getting education and changing maybe some of the things that we do to support each other and living independently in our homes. There's also, we need to look at how our cities and our state and are supporting designing our communities that support the way we want to live, which is, as we're growing older, we want to usually we want to stay in the places we love and with the communities and neighborhoods that we have these social connections with, and it helps prevent some of that isolation that can happen as we grow older and maybe get displaced from our communities because, again, they're not designed for us to live safely and independently. So,
right.
Yeah.
So, James, I know AARP has a lot of volunteer opportunities, but would you tell my audience some of the fun ones and then some of just what's there?
Yeah, thank you, Brenda. So we rely on our volunteers in a big way to make an impact. So all the things that I just talked about, really, we need volunteers to make a difference. And it's a really great opportunity because AARP has great resources and we have such a big membership and a great microphone that we can use to speak with a lot of older adults across the state. But we have a relatively small office that serves the whole state. And so we have that's true for all of AARP. We've got about 10 volunteers for every one paid staff person across the state. So, or across the country. So what types of things that our volunteers can do? I'll start with the fun ones, which is just connecting with other people that are interested in giving back to their community and advocating for older adults and supporting older adults. And so that's one thing, is just being a part of a community of volunteers can be a fun and meaningful experience. Also, we have events and activities that are meant to be fun and not just for our members and non-members, because our events are open to the public. Most of our events are open to not just AARP members, but anyone in our communities to attend, and they're free events. One is, we have, for example, our dance night that we had at Seatac Community Center, which, Brenda, thank you. You were a huge part of organizing and planning that and running that with us. It's a dance night where you can dance with your neighbors, with getting some dance instruction from a line instructor, also some free dance, and have some good food and connect with people. But at the same time, this was a celebration of the 90th anniversary of Social Security. So the theme was to celebrate Social Security and its impact for us in our communities. We even, we had hand fans for Social Security celebrating the 90th anniversary. The boots on the ground.
And we did the fan dance.
Yeah. Boots on the ground didn't work quite as well because the fans didn't open like a foldable fan. But
that's all right.
It was a great example of how we can have fun and we can make an impact at the same time. We don't have to have just a fun event that gives us a good feeling of camaraderie and do a fun thing together. It can also be community action oriented at the same time, and have people walk away feeling like they made a difference, or they just more engaged on a community level and giving back. And so that's what I would say about the kind of fun volunteer opportunities that are also an opportunity to feel like you've made a difference and have made an impact.
So if someone wants to join AARP and volunteer, how do they do that?
Yeah, so I would say one of the best ways is actually just to email our for those who use email so it's waarp@aarp.org. So that's waarp@aarp.org. That's our shared inbox we use for the state office. So you could just send us an email and say, hey, I'm interested in volunteering. And then we can get you connected in with how to get involved. We have a brief orientation so that people can feel like they are more informed about what type of volunteer opportunity that they're joining, and we want to get people easily involved, and get people started getting involved in different events and activities, try different things out, see what matches with your interests. There's no required commitment of time. So yeah.
James, I got to go. My producer said my time's up, but I just want to say real quick, thank you. I'll talk with you later. And to my audience, thank you. Don't forget, Metro League football starts tomorrow at pregame 11:30. The game is at noon on Rainier Avenue Radio. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll talk with you soon. Take care. God bless. Bye.
Thank you so much for having me, Brenda.
You're welcome, James.